Are you thinking about getting a divorce in Australia? You're not alone. Thousands of Australia go through this process every year. But here's the good news. It's not as complicated as it sounds. In this video, I'll take you through everything you need to know, from separation all the way to the final divorce order. And I'll also explain what people usually get wrong, so you can avoid the most common mistakes. Let's start at the beginning, separation. In Australia, before you can apply for a divorce, you need to be separated for at least 12 months. That's a hard rule. It doesn't matter how bad the relationship was or how long you've wanted out of the relationship. The law requires a full 12 months of separation. Now, what does separation actually mean? Separation is when one or both parties in the marriage make the decision to end the relationship. It doesn't always mean you've moved into separate homes. In fact, a lot of couples separate but continue living under the same roof. That's normally because of financial reasons, or there's something about co-parenting with their kids. But if you're living under the same roof and you're separated, you will need to provide extra information to the court to prove that you're no longer in a relationship. That comes in the form of things like how your sleeping arrangements are, or whether you're doing domestic duties for one another, or going out as a couple, or letting friends and family know that you've separated. You might even need a third party to confirm all of this in the form of an affidavit, which is basically a statutory declaration from someone else confirming that you're separated but still living together. So once the 12-month separation is done, can you go ahead and just file? Almost. But let's talk about whether or not you're eligible to get a divorce in Australia and whether you fall under the jurisdiction of the Australian court. To apply for a divorce in Australia, at least one person needs to be an Australian citizen or living in Australia and considering it their permanent home, or ordinarily living in Australia for at least the last 12 months before filing. You also need to show that you have been married, so there needs to be a marriage certificate of some sort, and that marriage certificate can come from either Australia or from a country overseas. All right, so now let's move on to the actual application process. Divorce in Australia is a no-fault system. That means the court doesn't care whose fault it was or what the reasons were for the divorce. You don't have to prove infidelity or abuse or anything like that. That's all changed since 1975. The only legal reason needed for a divorce is that the marriage has irretrievably broken down and there's no reasonable chances of getting back together. The application is done online through the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia. You'll need a copy of your marriage certificate and details of the separation. You'll need to provide the details of any children who are under the age of 18. And if your marriage certificate is from another country and isn't in English, you'll need to provide a certified translation along with the original. You can also file a sole application where just one of you applies, or a joint application where both of you apply together. If you and your ex are on reasonably good terms, a joint application is often the smoother and faster option. It avoids the need to serve documents and can speed up the process. If you file a sole application, then you're responsible for serving the divorce papers on your ex. And this is really important. You cannot serve the papers yourself, and you need to involve somebody that's over the age of 18, like a friend, relative, or a professional process server to hand those documents to your ex or serve them by post. You'll then need to complete an affidavit of service to prove to the court that the documents were delivered correctly. Serving the papers is often where things can go wrong. If your ex doesn't want to be found or is avoiding service, they might be overseas and they might be at a location that might be harder to serve. You might need to apply for a substituted service order or altogether a dispensation of service. This basically is a way for you to ask the court for permission to serve them in another way. And it might be by an email or by Facebook or by WhatsApp. Once the papers are served and everything is filed properly, your application will be listed for a court hearing. Now, don't panic. In many cases, you don't actually need to attend the hearing at all. If you filed a joint application and there are no children under 18, the court will process the divorce administratively and there's no hearing for you to attend. But if it's a sole application and the kids are under 18, you will be required to attend a brief court hearing. These are usually held online, and the judge will want to make sure proper arrangements are in place for the children's care, like who they're living with and how they're being supported. If the court is satisfied with the answers that it's receiving, it will grant a divorce order on the spot. But, and this is important, the divorce doesn't become final immediately. It becomes final 1 month and 1 day later. That's when you're officially divorced. Make sure you download the official divorce order from the court portal, especially if you plan to remarry or need to update documents like your driver's license, or passport. Now let's talk about what a divorce doesn't do. And this is where a lot of people get caught out. Divorce in Australia does not automatically divide your property, sort out spouse maintenance, child support, or deal with parenting arrangements. These are completely separate legal processes. If you want to finalize a property settlement, you can do it by agreement and file consent orders. If there's no agreement, you may need to apply to the court for particular orders as to what you're seeking. Now, here's the important piece of information you've been waiting for. You have only 12 months from the date your divorce becomes final to start property proceedings in court. After that, you'll need special permission to file out of time, and that is not guaranteed. So don't wait and get moving onto your property settlement quickly. If you've got kids, the divorce doesn't affect their legal arrangements either. You'll need to make separate parenting orders or a parenting plan. And if you and your ex can't agree, you'll be required to attempt family dispute resolution before going to court. To wrap things up, here's a quick summary of how to get a divorce in Australia. Be separated for at least 12 months. Check that you meet the eligibility requirements. Prepare and file your application online. Serve the papers if you applied on your own. Attend the court hearing if required. Wait 1 month and 1 day after the divorce is granted. Don't forget to deal with property and parenting separately. Divorce can be emotional, complicated, and stressful, but the legal process doesn't have to be. If you take the time to understand each step or you get some legal help along the way, we'll make the process so much smoother for yourself. If this video helped clearing things up, hit the like button and subscribe for more straight talking legal guides. And if you're going through separation and want help with the process, my team and I are here for you. Just reach out. Thanks for watching and take care of yourself.